So I'm not happy with the videography on this video, but as one guy said, done is better than better. And I came back to harvest beans and some more onions. Welcome back, and well, hope you enjoy it. Now this is where I messed up on a previous video. I went to record the harvesting of beans, and I got pretty much a full bin full between the three different varieties of this bin. Thing is, with beans, they will eventually pop open, and if there is one popped open, I'll show it to you. But this one now, the pod is actually gone hard, so he's ready to pop anytime at all. And the beans are fully ready. Jacob's cattle. I waited until later in the day to pick these. See, that one almost popped open when I took it off. To pick these because, especially here where we have such high humidity, it's better to have the beans dry, the pod dry, when you pick them. Last year, I picked all my beans, and I got a fairly good harvest. And I spread them out to let the pods dry out, just spread them out pod and all, just like that. And the pods just molded with our humidity. And I lost a lot of my harvest because of it. Here's one here starting to split, see? Now when they get to the point of having the pod dry like that, they're a little easier to just pluck off like that. Just give a quick pluck and they come. If they're a little bit green, they're still harder to get off the vine, and sometimes you pluck on them and you pull up the vine and all, which is not what I'm wanting to do if there's still green ones on the vine, because the vine, even though they're fading, they're still alive, right? So earlier on, you can, it doesn't really matter now that I pull this one up because all the beans are ready to go anyway. But earlier on, when only some of them are ripe, ready to be picked, you can just pluck them off the vine and leave the other ones there to ripen up. But that was like 2 weeks ago or something now. For the most part, I might be able to just take up these plants and pick the beans off them now, because it looks like everything is right on the Jacob's cattle. Another one even more is starting to open, see? If I had let that go any longer, that would have opened all the way down and the beans would have been out on the ground. And that one easily popped. So I gotta be careful I'm not losing beans there. Yeah, it looks like, oh, there's one over here. This one is still soft, see? Let's see what the beans are like inside. And the beans are still light. So that's what they would call demi-sec. And there's a couple that are still green there. But there's not very many. A lot of them just starting to break open, so I've got to get these harvested today. And I'm not worrying about pulling them up because, like I say, what's left that's green, not really worth getting excited about losing. Wonder what we'll find among the Jacob's cattle. I mean, tiger's eye. I can throw these in with the Jacob's cattle because they're vastly different, and I can separate them out when I shuck them. You see? This is the tiger's eye bean. We're in the shady plot now. So that's why the beans, the plants are doing so much healthier. These plants, you see, they're kind of a semi-vine, eh? And look at this. That would have been going moldy very fast. It was down there on the soil, being just constantly wet. And if I put that out, pod and all, to dry, the pod would just go moldy. See, that one there is going moldy. And due to the humidity in the air, they go moldy even spread out on the screen. Well, I pulled that one up. I don't see any more beans. See, some of them didn't get pollinated, you see. And you just got to empty shuck is what happens when that happens. The shuck still grows, but no beans grows in it. No, no. With me, cut the drop, it's fine. A little bit purple vines. Okay, go. No. Yeah, and not one green pod in the patch. So this bed can be prepared for winter now. Black turtle. There wasn't that many ready when I was harvesting beans last time. These are a much smaller bean. That's what they're like. Little black little pearls. They are shiny when they're almost ripe, but when they get completely ripe, they go to a matte color. Now, like I say, it's about 2 weeks later. Oh, I got one here that's not fully ripe. The beans are bigger because they got a higher water content. You can actually, like I can, you probably can't see on the camera, but they have a purplish tinge sheen to them, and they're shiny. But he's ripe enough that, I mean, it can dry out. I can dry it out, and it'll be the same as the fully dry ones. But I'm getting some there that's not fully ripe, so I think I'll leave the ones that are not fully ripe. Now the pod doesn't have to be crispy like this. It can be kind of leathery, but it has to be brown and starting to wrinkle. Otherwise you have demi-sec beans. See, you got some here that are still green yet. So I gotta be a little more careful taking the beans off of this. So far, the ones that are dry seem to be coming off quite easily and not pulling up the plant. Like I said, okay, that entire plant, they're all ripe, so I'll take up the plant and all. Like I said, I have to pick these because the next thing they'll be breaking open and the beans will be going out on the ground. They won't germinate right away. The worst thing is the mice and the squirrels will be taking them and running off with them. So it's not like they'll pop open and I can pick them up off the ground. But like I done with the other ones, if I do see a plant that, and I know I can see that all of the beans are ripe, like this one here, all of the beans are ripe, so I'm gonna take this plant toward me and make it easier on me to harvest the beans. I did write down the weight of the beans as soon as I shucked them last time. I think it was like 1.5 kilograms. But that was before they were dried, so it's not really good for me. It's no good to be judging the value of that, because the beans that you buy in the store, of course, they're dried, right? Kind of a pity I didn't have the last ones recorded, fiat on that recording, because I was showing you all of the different stages of the maturing of the pod, and right now I got pretty much just dried pods. I don't have the different stages to show you any sense. I do have the occasional bean, but I'm going to consider this as harvested beans, and this is the date that I harvested them on my records, right? So we'll know how many days it was from planting to harvesting. So beans wasn't something that was high on our diet, just culture. It's not anything to do with whether or not we like them. And now I've got a lot of homegrown beans. So that's a recipe, an ingredient that I have to experiment with and learn how to cook over this, from going forward. I have a couple of recipes, actually I have a dozen recipes for black bean soup. You see it's kind of like rubbery. It's not completely dry, but it is ready to be picked. In total, I think that's more than I had last time. I think I have a picture. If I have a picture of what I got last time, I'll show you. But yeah, this is about the time, I guess, that we will be picking them. It's September the 18th, and we set them somewhere around June the 5th or something or other. The far bed out there, that one, that's the bed of disappointment. And then we didn't get much to grow in this first try this year until we got some rain on it. I was watching a food forest tour, Northern California, and he showed what happens if you put too much ash or biochar in an area. And I thought to myself, I heat my own with wood, so I have a lot of ash, and I just come out and I sprinkle it over the ground. Wonder if that's my problem. So I have a little pH testing, a chemical tester in the house, and I tested the soil, and this is the result. So I guess I found my reason why. That's the bed of disappointment, and it could be part of the reason why I had poor both carrot and rutabaga germination this year. So that being said, this is the result of the grinding of the branches from a conifer tree, spruce I think. So if I sift this out, then I can use that to top dress the beds, and maybe that will correct my alkalinity problem. So I shucked them all. That was a set there. These are the ones I got the first time. I had them laid out on the screen to just dry out somewhat. And now I'll put them in the dehydrator overnight to make sure they're completely dry. And then pack them away. And I'll put these out on the screen. The grass grew so fast. If you remember, I dug the grass out of this in the spring, complete with rhizomes, and I had like a wheelbarrow full of rhizomes. And then later during the year, I weeded this bed out again, and now it's a mess again. And the onions that I left there to go to seed, you see the pods are still green, except for the slugs were eating on them and got some eat away. And I was watching the other ones, and no, they never did go brown. And so because of that, I'm going to have to loosen the soil with the fork like I do in the spring. Hopefully I don't spike through an onion. Now my only choice is to sit down beside that and weed it out. Actually, I think I have on a video of me weeding this out. Take the weeds out, and as I find the onions, throw them in the bowl I have here. A bunch of onions that didn't grow at all. See, it grew in there quite savage. One onion set that didn't grow at all. Didn't take that long. So I mean, it's not something to be overly frustrated about, but the frustrating thing is that it grew back so thickly so fast. Now I've got just 2 piles, so I don't have to procrastinate on taking that away. It's just basically 1 trip to the compost bin. Almost a bowl full of onions out of that bed. This bed is actually not so bad. And you see all the little chamomile flowers? So weed that out and try to leave the chamomile in there. But I have several onions that's still growing in this bed.